Hey guys, and welcome to some more modded Warhammer 2, as I myself take charge of the mighty Chaos Dwarfs here, up against the Dread King Legions, led by Mr. Raptor himself. Should be some really good fun. I think from what most people have said, these are two of the most powerful factions in the mods, and I'm very excited to get my hands on them and give them a little bit of a try. So for our forces, we've gone pretty simple. In the front lines, we have a ton of Infernal Guard, and unlike most Dwarven troops, Chaos Dwarfs in fact have a resistance to fire. If we have a little look down here, they have a 25% fire resistance instead of the magic resistance. And a lot more bad to the bones as well. Look how crazy cool these guys look. Some very impressive models indeed. On either flank, we have the Infernal Guard with the Fire Glaives. So basically a great weapon unit and a little bit more kind of better stats all round. Fire damage to boot as well. In the centre pocket, we do have double Devastators, looking to bring devastation to our foes here. Basically Thunderers, but they come with these much more kind of, I think they're Outrider grenade launcher shots, but yeah, more like blunderbuss cannons, which look cool indeed. We also have the K-Die Fireborn, probably absolutely butchered the name of that, but these guys are very cool as well. Ethereal Floating Beings, although they don't actually have ethereal traits, they are indeed unbreakable, anti-infantry, fire, and do give the lovely burn effect to negative leadership. They're anti-infantry and looking to saturate on top of my front line to deal some extra damage. Joining them, we also have Karak Ag Grax Magma Beasts is what we're going to go with there. Basically lava trolls, so fire trolls. They still have that 25% a weakness to fire, but also 75% resistance, so it's certainly not too bad. And the whole idea of this build, as you can see, is to saturate on top of the front line and work as a giant hammer to punch through my enemy formation. In the back line, we have one of my favourite units from the entire mod, the Iron Demon War Engine, unbreakable Dowie steam tank with fire and magic damage. And up in the skies, we have Drazahoff the Ashen, looking incredibly badass here on his flaming gigantic manticore. I cannot remember the name of the actual beast myself, but it looks pretty cool. Coming in with Stand or Die, Arcane Conduit, Foe Seeker, as well as Flaming Breath. He also comes in with Blazing Body, giving a weakness to fire damage, which of course with the fire theme we have gone with, should work pretty well. Now for my opponent here, as you can see, this faction is based heavily off the Vampire Counts. Skeleton Warriors are going to be dotted along the front line. Cheap and cheerful here, just to absorb some of the damage, while the rest of the build actually packs the punch. For the rest of that build, we do have double mummies, one in the back line and one over here on the right hand side. Anti-large armor piercing. Very sticky unit to deal with all round. They, of course, as well do bring the Curse of the Mummy, which actually is basically a poison, which lowers the stats of the enemy. So a real pesky unit to deal with. And we also have the Casket of Souls, which is normally not a particularly great pick against the Dowie. Yes, dwarves have a tight formation, which Casket of Souls normally excels at, but that magic resistance really newts its effectiveness. But of course, we are Chaos Dwarfs, not basic dwarfs, so it's going to wreak havoc for sure. We do have a skeletal giant as well, coming with a gigantic club, bone club indeed, looking pretty ferocious, and he'll work in the same way as a giant, but he does come in with only bones as well, which makes him more resistant to small arms fire. For leadership core here, we do have Gunther, who's going to be leading the charge alongside the Dread King, who looks like a character straight out of Lord of the Rings, kind of like a Sauron-esque figure, coming with some spells, Spirit Leech, Doom and Darkness, all that good stuff, whereas Gunther's going to be coming in with Invocation of Nehek, Magical Animus, and Arcane Conduit, and Skull Bombardment, which has a really cool animation, and if he does take too much damage, he will turn ethereal as well. To finish off the build, on either flank we do have some Black Grail Knights, one of the stickiest units and the tankiest units I've ever seen, because they come with 90 armor and a bronze shield is pretty impressive stuff, but also a 30% resistance. Physical resistance is very good. Magic stats and 5,300 hit points between only 9 models makes them very tanky indeed, but they don't do the most damage either. So without further ado guys, let's get this battle underway. As you can see, Devastators have been a little devastated here. Straight out of the gate, Casket of Souls up to 33 kills already. We're going to be unleashing some shots there into the Dread King, who has decided to fall back in order to protect this casket. And it's really cool to actually see some mobile dwarf units, something you don't get to see terribly often. So we're floating over here, we're going to be firing some magic missiles down. We are kind of getting used to the mod. I've only done one session of it so far, and this is my first time playing the Chaos Dwarf, so we're still trying to figure out what's good and what's not good. And I thought he had a breath attack, so instead we're going to be throwing magic missiles. But as for the front line, things are going pretty bad in the back line, actually, for Devastators, but the front line, things are going well The Firebomb hopping on top and saturating through the Infernal Guard, kind of working as trolls would almost, or Chaos Spawn, Kroxigor, that type of unit, are really helping me pound down the front lines very quickly. Mummies are going to be saturated on top of the Skeleton Warriors, which is a good idea, so we can apply that debuff to the Infernal Guard with Fire Glaives. We're going to be floating over with more of our troops. Looks like a big shot as well from the Iron Demon War Machine, up to 63 kills already. So we've managed to crush both flanks straight out of the gate and start putting some pressure as well on the deeper portions of my opponent's build. However, in come the Black Grail Knights. Going to get some lance and charges into the Infernal Guard. Luckily for me though, most of this undead build of course does have a weakness to fire, and most of my units do bring fire. Unfortunately not this unit here, which is being completely surrounded and dragged down here due to good cycle charging from my opponent. So we're going to be plopping over with all our trolls and stuff, trying to pin these guys in where possible. Left-hand flank, things are going relatively well, but we're taking massive damage from that Casket of Souls, obliterating the Infernal Guard, so we are going to be trying to push through into the back lines a little more where possible, and help Drazahov as well to take out the Black Grail Knights is going to be the Iron Demon War Machine, just sitting back here quite comfortably, getting some shots in. Looks like our gunners as well have returned to the fray, need to get back in here. Looks like they are now unleashing some shots into the Black Grail Knights, who are desperately trying to charge forward. Shields are raised as they dart across the snowy plain, but looks like they're actually going to turn and run away. Oh no, and they're going to come back again as axes and shields are drawn. Some of the dwarves try to get off a last volley or two, and in comes the Ashen One, floating down to attack the Grail Knights. Going to be swooping down. Steam Tank is here as well, and this could be a bit of a problem. The mummies do, of course, come in with that anti-large, but the War Machine still pretty good in combat, and has a lot more mobility and mass, so can pull away if need be. Looks like we do have the skull animation coming down from Gunther there, doing some pretty horrendous damage to one unit of the Fire Glaives there, but for the most part we managed to escape and push wide. That hero core with the giant is pretty scary stuff. So our mighty warriors have managed to surround the Skeleton Giant. Oh no! Who's eaten the head of one of these poor Infernal Guards, and is now coated in their guts and blood. They should be able to deal pretty well with the Fireborn, but they do fire damage, and of course he has a weakness to fire. A Ushopti summon has gone down by my opponents, which are going to come in to help with this big blob fight, and a lot of our troops are being terrified off as the Black Grail Knights once again come in for a thunderous charge here into the rear of those Infernal Guard. And this is Ushopti piling in. This is a pretty key engagement going down. Steam Tank is going to be used here to push forward and escape the mummies and get a bit far in arc, as the Magma Beasts do return once more to come say hello. Over on the far side, mummies do manage to defeat the Infernal Guard. I've been really impressed with this unit all round. Kind of a dual-wielding spear and sword unit. They are now going to be focused down by the Fireborn, and both these units kind of good against each other. Our Mighty Lord is going to swoop down upon the Skeleton Giant, and it's actually a perfect target for us. We, of course, do hit like an absolute truck with that fire damage, and the Skeletal Giant is trying to run away here and kind of help support the mummies where possible, and perhaps drag us into these anti-large troops, but we're tanking him down so quickly, I don't think he's going to stand too much of a chance there. Big Bone Club swing, though, is coming in trying to do some damage, but Drazahov is simply too much of a powerhouse here, going to be able to drag down the Skeletal Giant. The Iron Demon War Machine is going to be pulling away here. Looks like Black Grail Knights may be coming over to say hello, but it's incredibly tanky as well. Looks like our main portion of our force has buckled, but it is going to be returned to the field once more, so we slowly attempt to grind down the undead hordes here. Black Grail Knights focusing down at the Iron Demon War Machine, but in pops Drazahov, and he's going to do some pretty good damage into the back of these guys. He's one of those units which can drag them down quite quickly due to that awesome fire damage and weakness he imbues upon them. These guys actually have a huge weakness right now. So they've got 35% fire weakness, and the minus 20 from the Blazing Body is scary stuff for sure. Balance power is still dead even here. Going into the late games, our troops do rally and chuck themselves once again. And you can see Gunther has indeed gone into his ethereal form here, going to make it a little bit more tricky to take down as he goes toe-to-toe with the Fireborn as well as the Magma Beasts here. Over on the right-hand side, this cannon and... oh, not cannon. The Demon War Machine and our Lord have been such a deadly combo. Managing to snipe out the Knights here and finish those guys off. So my opponent has lost the mobility portions of his build. He can no longer sit back as well because we did take down his casket. And that is going to allow the Devastators to do some really good work here in the late game. As well as the Iron Demon War Machine, which is shooting in, just focusing down at those key targets for now. But my build is pretty beat up, and once again we are getting a massive terror rout, which is pretty scary stuff. And it looks like the Dread King, up to only 17 kills, but he's been facing kind of big entities throughout as well. Our Lord is going to be floating over into the back here to help finish off these mummies. They are anti-large, but there's not too many of them left. So we're just trying to look to crump them as quickly as possible. As the last charge here of the Hero Core does go towards the Iron Demon, which is going to be unleashing some shots as these troops do get closer. Now, the great thing about this machine, it actually does fire and magic damage, and it's going to punt Gunther along the floor as well. They're not worthy enough to face such a mighty machine, it says. He's going to come back in for another charge, but the poor lad, of course, is not going to be having too good of a time, as it looks like Drazahov has arrived as well. There we go. Getting my English correct there. As Gunther does take a little bit of a hammer in here. He tries to kick the machine and do his best, but this model is so cool. It's definitely one of my favourites we've used so far. As Gunther is once again sent flying and pushed out from his assistants. Drazahov is getting pretty low here, down to just 670 health. But we are now managing to swarm the remaining units, and the tank is just flinging around these characters of legend and helping demolish them quite quickly. And it looks like it is going to be a victory for the Chaos Dwarfs there. Certainly a fun one, a Pyrrhic victory as well, getting rather close there at the death. So very well played to my opponent there, Raptor, going under the name Totally Not OP Stuff, as he tries to bring some powerful stuff. But honestly, it was a pretty balanced and good game all round. Now, Chaos Dwarfs are considered, I think, one of the best armies in kind of all the mods that we've got on here. We've got quite a few. I should probably list them in the description if you guys do want to play them yourselves. They've been massive good fun, and we had a big laugh with them. But the Dread King Legions as well are considered quite powerful as well, so two top-tier factions going at it here. As for my build, pretty good fun stuff, pretty standard of course, going mid-tier troops in the front lines and saturating on top of them with some of the bigger lads. And the plan worked relatively well. The Casket of Souls did throw a massive spanner in the works, obliterating some of my long-range troops and really forcing me to get on the offensive and push it back. But the combination here of the Iron Demon War Machine, as well as the mighty Drazahov the Ashen, really helped kind of carry the day, assassinate key targets with my added mobility, and then allowing the tank just to kind of obliterate a lot of the Dread King Legion's forces. So yeah, really good fun stuff overall. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. And let me know down below in the descriptions if you would like to see more modded stuff. We only did one session of it so far, so I've probably got about 3 replays in the tank for you guys that I am going to put up on the channel. And if you want to see more, just let me know, and we'll mix it in as well. It won't be replacing the standard Warhammer videos. We'll still do one of those kind of every day, but we may add one of these on as, you know, an extra every now and again, maybe every couple of days or so, if people do indeed enjoy it. And guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.